Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejas Vinavaditamastu Ma Vitvishavahay. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Good evening, everyone. Let's just begin with some practice. Sit comfortably. Allow your eyes to gently shut. Take a moment to focus on the breath. Just notice the breath. Then notice your body. Ground yourself in body. Notice the various sensations that may be arising in body. And notice the physical aspects of body. The weight of the body on the chair. Your feet firmly planted on the ground. The posture of your back. Just notice all of this and just put attention on the physical. Don't try to correct your posture, but just notice it and allow it to change with its own intelligence. Just allow yourself to be centered in body. Just sit. With your attention focused on the physical. Notice your posture. Allow it to correct itself naturally. Allow the body to sit naturally. Listen to the body. Just notice the body. Ground yourself in body. Just relax as body. For the next few minutes, let the body direct your actions, relying on its own intelligence. Just listen deeply to your body. Just listen deeply to the body. Allow itself to just be. Just relax as body. Allowing the body to sit naturally still. Just sit as body. Just sit as body. Just sit as body. Just sit. Just sit. Just sit and relax his body. Just sit his body. Okay. Slowly, very slowly, open your eyes and relax. So the body is a good place to ground yourself. And grounding is important in spirituality because it's very easy to be searching for certain sensations, feelings, especially the pleasant ones, and you want to try to repeat them. What grounding yourself in body really does, when you just relax as a body, you begin to realize the irrelevance of various sensations. It's not really peace that you're trying to create. It's not relaxation you're trying to create. And as you sit, it becomes more and more obvious what's real and what's not. It's just, and as you ground yourself in the physical, it prevents you from getting carried away in the wild world of thinking. Any questions?
No questions.
Okay. So that's using body as a tool. We can practice using mind as a tool. And this is inquiry. So let us sit together with the intention. And that's the important thing, is this collective intention. That I want to know what's true. Because that's essentially, I think, inquiry is only successful. Actually, any of this is only successful if there's a certain level of sincerity, without getting overly caught up in that term. Oh, am I sincere enough? Oh my goodness, I wasn't sincere this moment or yesterday. I should be better. without all of those thoughts, without getting carried away with that, sincerity simply means it's the courage to look and accept something that you may not really want to recognize, something that you've been denying. Just be sincere in inquiry means to be open. More, I think that's probably the biggest aspect of that. Just be open, open to the possibility, open to the possibility of something other than what I assume to be true. So I have assumptions on truth. Those assumptions may be based on memory. None of those assumptions are, from an absolute sense, actually true. They're actually just assumptions based on history, based on memory. What are these kind of core assumptions? Either I'm a good person, I'm not a good person. I'm lazy. These generalizations, right, that we make about ourselves. I'm lazy, or I'm a go-getter, or whatever adjectives you have about yourself are effectively assumptions. Descriptions that become generalizations, and then I accept them as an assumption in my life. People are kind, or people are mean. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get, right? The Forrest Gump. Or life is scary. There is risk at every turn. Assumptions. And so it's the courage to see through them, whatever they might be for you. So part of that, it helps to have a desire to see the truth. Do you really want to know? Do I really want to know what's actually true about my life? What is true? And therefore, I have to be willing to let go of anything that's conceptual. So if I'm looking for the truth of who I am, there's no truth in any idea, assumption, belief, all of that. Why? Because I have the capacity to witness idea, belief, whatever, right? Assumptions. I can see them. So if I can see my assumptions, I can see my beliefs, I can see my ideas, then they're actually not true.
Mr. Gandhi, what do you mean by if you can see the assumption?
So when you're sitting, right, in meditation, or in any case, so thought arises, right? So if a thought is arising, then there's also something that's observing the thought, correct?
Yes.
So if a thought is arising and there's something observing the thought, then I can't be the thought. You see what I'm saying? I'm not the thought because I can witness the thought. You see the separation now?
Well, when I during the meditation, there's the thought, and then I snap out of it, whatever it is, and come to the present. But in that moment, I'm not even observing the thought. That is that thought. I am the thought. So for me, there's no distinction. Like, because you mentioned that I'm observing it, I agreed. But for me, I am the thought, and then I snap back, and then I'm here. So
Yes, you're absolutely correct. At that point, you become the thought. Another way to view it is you fall into the dream state, right? Like when you dream in a sleeping dream, you become the dream. Life
yes,
becomes the dream.
yes,
Anyway, when you become enmeshed with the thought, it appears as if you are the thought. Absolutely correct. But when you are able to look at it, i.e., you're awake, you begin to notice that it's just thought. So therefore, even though you're right, at times I become enmeshed in thinking, and at that time I believe I'm the thought, right? I'm not the thought, ever. I'm just saying from a very, very real standpoint, because I have the capacity to witness thought, I can't be the thought. Yes, at times I can get enmeshed in it, but even when I'm enmeshed, I'm not the thought. I just believe I'm the thought. Like when I'm asleep in a dream, I believe I can fly.
yes.
You see the difference?
Yes, like in a dream, and if I don't know I'm dreaming, I'm totally involved, but maybe something happens where I realize I'm dreaming, and then now there's some space where I know it's just a dream. So there's, I guess there's I'm not as involved in it, and then
Exactly.
it sides.
And we all agree that we're not our dreams, right? That 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 there's the dream state, the waking state, the state of deep sleep, and then people call it the fourth state, just the fourth. That's why it's known as Turiya. But in all those three states, ignoring the fourth for a moment, in all those three states, you are the same. What you are hasn't changed. You may, in deep sleep, you're not aware of what you are, meaning, some of us sleep so deeply that, if someone was to come in and take the sheets off the bed and just basically rob the entire house, we wouldn't notice. But I am still there. What I am exists in the deep sleep state, even though I might not be aware of what I am. In the waking state, I'm aware of what I am. And of course, I exist. And in the dream state, even though I'm aware, I may not be aware of, I'm aware of a separate sort of identity, right? But I still exist. So in all three, there's the I. So that's actually, that I is what I am. That exists in all three states. So I can't lose it. So I can never lose what I am, but I can fall asleep. So the same way, in the waking state, I can fall asleep. I can get lost in my thoughts, right? I can be distracted. I think that's probably the best term for it. No metaphysics here. It's just I'm distracted. I get distracted into my thinking. When I'm distracted by thought, I believe I'm thought. But the moment I'm no longer distracted, I can see clearly that I'm not thought.
Okay. Okay.
So therefore, what I am not my thoughts. And therefore, this was Descartes' fundamental error. He says, I think, therefore I am. It's actually I am, and there are thoughts arising. Because he believed that the dream state, the waking dream, is actually the real state. The thinking state defines who you are. What's realized with a little bit of attention, so this is like a little bit of rigor, right? We say,
Yeah.
we realize that we're not that. And then you realize, oh, okay, then I'm not that. The Descartes was just wrong. Just simple observation proves that I'm not. I am has nothing necessarily to do with thinking. I am, and thinking is a process that exists. Just like at the same point in time, even though I'm not aware of it, the heart is beating, respiration is going on, digestion may be going on. All of these things, all of these processes exist. I may not be aware of them, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes. But with thinking, why it's I think most of the time, at least for me, I'm most of the time I'm there in the thinking state, for work or for other, day to day or for planning, things like that. So I start, I guess I'm involved completely into that thinking state. So where do you draw the line between, what's necessary for survival, but then at the same time, you know, knowing that you're not, that thinking process? Is it just like being aware that you're not the thinking process? Is that enough? And then just continuing to, um, for the practical purpose of surviving in society, you have to use that process. So I guess I wanted to get a better understanding of where to draw the line on what's correct, or if that
So I
makes
guess,
sense.
the first assumption to challenge is that for practical purposes, I need thinking as much as I think I need it.
Okay.
So meaning, so I'm not negating the usefulness of mind. Mind is a really, really useful problem-solving tool. In my profession, I use mind. But even in my profession, which has a lot to do with problem solving, I only really need mind about maybe 3 to 5% of my day. The other 98% of the day, it's just useless thought.
That means maybe it's repeating. The thought is repeating. So right.
Well, so for example, I'm thinking about the last few days, I've been worried about something at work. So I'm thinking about, oh, how can I solve it? What can I do? That particular type of thought has no use to it. When I'm actually in the lab, or I'm actually working on the problem, there is usefulness to solving the problem in the now, right? And that's a sharp way to apply the mind. However, if I just keep thinking randomly, then all that ends up happening is I get more and more, it's sort of like a process that sort of wraps around itself, and I just get more and more anxious, and I feel more and more fatigued, right? It robs energy from life because I'm caught in that loop. So that's not a useful process. And if you look what that process is trying to do, it's trying to reinforce a false identity. Because literally, if you stop thinking for a moment or two, you realize that you are nothing. That what you are isn't this, right? And all of a sudden that's known as moksha, freedom. It's like that moment, the gap between two thoughts is wide enough for a moment, then consciousness becomes very, very vivid, very, very apparent, very, very, you could say, center stage. And so that's why most of meditation, or most meditative practices, we're trying to do is facilitate a little bit of a gap. So it's just facilitating. I can't tell you who you are, but through technique, through inquiry, through certain pointers, what we're trying to say, point to is that what you are has nothing to do with what you're thinking. And if you can just relax for a moment, you'll see it's just very obvious. It's an obvious knowing that what you are isn't what you're thinking. But that's why there's the little bit of discipline. The discipline is actually just to relax you, to allow for, so it's kind of like when the more you think, the more distorted reality gets. So you ever notice when, and the easiest way to notice is when you're anxious, when you're in that survival mode, you'd said survival, right? You're anxious, you're thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen? What's going to happen tomorrow? I'm going to lose my job if I don't finish this to the deadline. Okay, here's the narrative, right? Reinforcing those racing thoughts. So the more and more you think in that situation, the more and more distorted your reality looks. And what I mean looks is because in reality, if you're just to take 2 steps back, or if you're to talk to your buddy who's sitting next to you, you're just sitting in a chair. Right? That's reality. This body is sitting in a chair. That's reality. What I'm seeing in front of me, the image of myself in this, that's also reality. Okay. But all of these projections, the doom and gloom, the whatever, the fantasy, negative fantasy or positive fantasy, that's all they are. They're just projections. They're just fantasy. So when you're caught in thinking, you're caught in fantasy, has nothing to do with reality. It can be a fantastic high. It can also be a fantastic low. And you can see how quickly they oscillate.
Would you say the judging is what causes the involvement? Because let's say I do have a deadline, and if I don't complete it, I will lose my job. Like these are facts, but it's me judging it and being involved in it, which causes it to continue and like maybe worry about things which aren't there, which could or might not happen. But the fact.
No, so it's really, it's even more basic than that. It's judging, you're right, is a strong, when you use judgment, right, you get trapped in something. Like if I judge myself, then I've essentially closed any inquiry, right? If I say I'm lazy, that's a judgment, sharp. Then I've closed any inquiry. This is how the mind works, right? So therefore, now everything rests on that assumption. I'm lazy and I need to do something about my laziness. So I create this paradigm of who I am, and I create this paradigm of who I want to be, and I fight with myself. So round one is to the lazy self, right? Round two is to the active self, right? And here I am shadow boxing, right? Because there's actually no fight. Either you do the work or you choose not to do the work.
Right.
That's the cold nature of reality. So you're absolutely correct. Like, especially in the old days, right? If you live in the foothills of Nepal, they have a very, very short growing season. If you don't plant your rice paddies in that short period, of several weeks to a month of planting season, you will starve that year. The rice must be planted. It's a very, very real, deadline.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
It is survival. It is very real.
Yes.
But it's not the worry that makes you plant those rice fields. It's the knowledge that you need to plant the rice because you need to eat. So on the one level, we can be motivated by fear.
Yeah.
Or I can simply be motivated by intelligence. And so when I'm not caught up in thinking, what ends up happening is there is that intelligence inside me that knows what to do. It knows that bills need to be paid. It knows that work needs to be gone to. It knows that chores need to be done. And why is that? Because it's just obvious, for lack of a better term, right? Mm-hmm. It just becomes very obvious. So if the dishes aren't done, the next morning, the dishes will be there in the sink. If the trash is not taken out, then the trash is not taken out. So there's no drama to it. What we tend to do in our lives is add drama.
Right.
That are very, very simple.
I see. Yeah, it's just the drama of it.
Yeah.
Versus just the point of fact.
Yes. I find what's more fun to do is actually add drama on purpose. So, so my wife sometimes says drama baji karache, it's like, hey, this is the mean me, or this is the, so, just have some fun with it, right? So be a drama queen. But as you do it with that kind of attitude of being in a drama, it's kind of fun. But if you're caught in the drama and you believe you're the drama, what happens? It's no longer any fun, right? You feel trapped, right? Ever feel trapped, right? I'm trapped in my life. How do I get out? How do I escape? So it's like a person who's caught in a corner of a room, right? And he says, I'm trapped, I'm trapped. And someone says, fool, look to the left, turn around. It's like, oh, okay, I'm not trapped. So
that means we have to be detached from the thought also, right? Like, then we can take the life as it comes and we'll be calm and quiet.
But that
yeah, go ahead.
It's hard to just detach. So what I think what Mr. Gandhi is saying is if you like by not taking it seriously and participating in it, then the detachment happens on its own by doing that,
Yes,
I think.
yes, yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. So attachment and detachment actually only exist in thought. There is neither attachment or detachment in life. Reality is neither attached nor detached. It just simply exists. It's kind of like, if you look at reality from its reality standpoint, everything is just interconnected. And therefore, nothing is really attached, nor is it detached. Reality is neither attached to the body nor detached from it. It's just, this body exists. Yes. It is an expression of that divinity, right? Like everybody is. Similarly, everything else is an expression of that same divinity. And then there's just a dance between all of it. And that's what we call Prakriti. That's that nature. The dance is Prakriti. It's just the dance with life. So that's all it is. Life is this casual dance. If I take it too serious, I get enmeshed in it, then there's a tremendous amount of heaviness and burden, suffering.
Yeah.
So if I can simply observe thought, so this is where the inquiry, this we were talking about, right? If I can inquire, if I really want to know what's true, I really start to look at it and I go, so is all of this actually true, right? It's really question your assumptions, question your worries. Is it really true if I don't make this deadline, I'm going to lose my job? Is that really a fact? And then what you realize is it's more nuanced than that. The reality is I don't know. I could miss the deadline and I could still be employed. I could make the deadline and I could lose my job. Still. Because there's so much going on in life, we're not actually in that much control of it. We have a strong influence on our lives. I'm not denying that. But we have very little control over our lives in reality. You see the difference? I can influence my health, for example. I can choose to take care of my body. I can choose to eat right, exercise more, the standard stuff, right? It's not rocket science, Eat less, eat right, exercise more, take care of body. I can choose that lifestyle. I have influence over that, strong influence. But I can't control if I get cancer or not. I have no control. I have influence. It's true, if I take care of body, I reduce the risk statistically, right? That's absolutely true. But it is not control. There are no guarantees.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying the stuff that I can control is there, but there's also people around and everyone has collective assumptions also, which change, but again, that's not in my control. So.
Exactly. So there's stuff. So if you look at, so it's even interesting. 7 habits of highly effective people. Stephen Covey wrote
Yeah.
that book. What's interesting about it, he talks about the sphere of influence. So he doesn't talk about control, but he says, effective people expand their sphere of influence, right? And to do that requires, his first habit is to be proactive. What is being proactive? Is the ability to not be overwhelmed by our emotional response. Because if you're simply caught up in your own thinking, your own assumptions, your own emotions, you won't be able to practice any of the habits, right? Because you get, again, overwhelmed, right? So the whole premise of that and that's really what led me to meditation, was the whole premise of it was, hey, he never talked about how to do habit one. And habit one really is being aware. If you're aware in your life, you can exert greater power, greater influence in your life. And that's the power of actually being aware. And there's a paradox in that. And it has to do with this: as you become comfortable with that greater influence, you also realize more and more that I don't need to influence my life. There's an intelligence that sort of moves. There's a momentum that sort of follows. You begin to become aware of that momentum. There's this momentum in your life, this intelligence in your life that has been sort of always been there. It's actually how you got to where you are today. If you look, there's that innate intelligence in you that really sort of pushed you the way you are to the place you are today. You might not have been completely aware of it. You might have ignored it. You might have overridden it. And that, of course, results in all sorts of suffering and drama and all that. But it doesn't mean that it wasn't there. So that I am is always there. And there's a momentum to that I am. A momentum of this birth that's there. It's natural. Just like it's very natural for this body to do what it does, right? Every moment the heart beats, it's doing so many functions automatically. So there's that natural intelligence that actually has led you through life.
It's like getting out of our own way.
Yeah, exactly. Most of the time we're in our own way because what we see is not nature. We see the snake, as the Upanishads would say, there's a person sleeping in the corner of the room. He sees something coiled up. He believes it's a snake. All night he's planning on how he's going to escape the snake. When the sun shines through the window, right, and the room lights up, he sees it's a rope coiled up in the corner. So that's the nature of mind solving problems that don't exist. So
Like a big wasted time. He wasted the entire time.
yeah, I think Shakespeare said it best. Life is but a walking shadow, a poor actor that struts and frets. It's a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. And that was sort of that's one aspect. I'm not saying that's what life is, but that's one aspect of unconscious living. Is you kind of wonder what's the point of it. It's so unconscious.
The thought process is so the nonstop, thought process is pretty pointless. Like you said, the majority of the thoughts are just a waste of time, with it that consumes, energy and all that.
Yeah. And that what that does is it distracts you from what life actually is. And so it's kind of like you're caught in this perpetual state of distraction. And it's only in those moments where you wake up that you're actually experiencing life. And so this is really just about slowing down a bit so you can slow down and live life. Right? Really, it's slow down and live life. Okay. So it looks like we're out of time. So we'll conclude with a prayer. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Well, good night.
Thank you, Chetanji. Thank you so much. Good night.
Good evening. Thank you.
Good evening.